Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you very much for joining me here today. This is your one-stop shop for cryptocurrency analysis, among many other things. Now, we're taking a look here today at Kava.io, which is Kava essentially, and it's not just a good coffee. It is essentially a good coin too. There's some good fundamentals. You want to do your own research, of course, but I have a really good group of folks here that asked me to cover this on a regular basis. And I apologize it's taking me so long to go ahead and roll this one out. I've had a lot of side things I've been dealing with, but more importantly, thank you again for your patience. And now I'm not a financial advisor. This is for educational purposes only. You should do your own research and always take ownership of your trades. And just note that I have been trading for a very long time, and my goal is to help you become more of an effective trader so you can trade for a lifetime instead of just for one day. So just keep that in mind. Also note I have a Patreon group. A link in the description below. I have a signal group there within, and that basically just means that I send 2 to 4 signals. These are entry points that I'm taking, and I share my best practice with you, and we can basically all follow along in my trades essentially. And my trading style at this point is currently hovering around 75% overall success rate. I'm usually 75 to 85% overall success in general. Regardless of that, I have a Telegram community. Check that out in your own time too. Good group of folks there. You can learn a lot. And without further ado, let's go ahead and just get right to it. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a look at Kava.io. And just before we do, we look at Bitcoin and Ethereum first. So if you're new to the channel, really just like to look at the 4-hour chart for Bitcoin and Ethereum, get a quick baseline on the market so we know kind of what's going on with this altcoin specifically and kind of how they correlate with the largest coins in the industry. So we'll just take a look at that first. And to preface, I always like to utilize TradingView.com desktop applications, my only indication or correction, my only format that I use here so far, because it works fantastically. So if you don't use it presently, I recommend you use it just because it works very well. I also recommend the paid versions just because it does help add more than 2 indicators at one time. So I utilize 2 indicators per time frame, but a lot of different ones throughout the process. So just recommend you might check that out. I have a link in the description below for a discount. I think it's like a free month of through the referral program there. So just keep that in mind. But either way, again, we're looking at Bitcoin here. This is the 4-hour chart, and I'm going to enable my simple moving averages, which the purple line is the 200 and the orange line is the 50. Price action broke below the 50-day simple moving average just a moment ago, about 4 hours ago, 4.5 hours ago, somewhere in that range. And unfortunately, it broke below, which is normal. However, there's a lot of other indications that the price is likely not going to stay that low for very long. But regardless, that is currently working as a potential resistance. We've got a support level at 37,000. 40,000 is a support and resistance level because it's worked in both regards. And presently also 42,500 is a major resistance. So just know we're kind of in these channels, and I drew this channel up here for my signal group, just when I always provide Bitcoin updates pretty consistently, and this is essentially part of that update. In other words, we have these 2 channels right now that Bitcoin's working itself into. One is 37 to 40,000, the other is 40 to 42,500, and this, of course, the upside and or the downside. We are on the downside right now, but here's some silver lining. Take a look at this here. We got TD sequential, indicating a potential reversal because we have a state of exhaustion based on the fact that we've had 9 candles that have closed essentially lower than the previous 4th to signal we have a 9. So a 9 is a good sign that basically tells us in most cases when we see a 9, there's going to be a turnaround and we should expect to see some green candles moving forward with the price likely to test 40,000 again and surpass that and potentially blow through to go up to about 42.5 again. All right, so that's kind of the hope, but I'm not too worried right now with the price being where it's at. It's pretty standard. We've got 2 bullish Parami hammers also. Keep that in mind. One's forming here, one previously closed. That usually signals an upwards reversal. All right, so there's that. That is Bitcoin again. Bear in mind, too, we have a support at 30,000, but 37,000 is the most relevant recent support that I think is going to work the strongest if and when it's tested again. Moving on to Ethereum. Now, Ethereum's doing quite well recently. Now, there's been some fundamental news. Do your own research there, but there's definitely some good stuff going on there. And what this reminds me of, if you take a look at this increase here, of course, when you look at Bitcoin's, it's similar. It ramped up and then down. But Ethereum's been pretty consistent. And if you look back here, this is another consistency, right? That's when Ethereum had some really good fundamental news going for it. So I foresee Ethereum doing something similar. So I would venture to guess that we're going to see Ethereum test 2,900 in the relative near future. So if you're not already, considering investing in Ethereum might be a good consideration now. I think a long position would be ideal in the near future here, especially with it working itself into its ascending triangle pattern here. You can kind of see, again, just loosely, we got a pattern forming there. And most of the time when those things happen, they break in an upward fashion. All right, so just something to consider, but major resistance 2900, major support 1725, and a secondary support 2400. Oh no, I like what's going on with Ethereum more so than Bitcoin, but they're both in very good shape. Kava. Now we'll take a look at the one-day chart here for Kava and then work our way down. Now this is an interesting one here. Obviously, it's been around for some time, so we don't need to worry too much about the previous history here back in 2020. We'll focus more so on the recent data because of the fact that, when Bitcoin sold off, a lot of coins did, they respond differently. I like to identify that and see how independent they move from one another. So honestly, you can pretty much quickly see that there is a codependency from Bitcoin or from Kava through Bitcoin, and you can see that the 17th and 18th here, major red candle, and then went down to the 25th like usual. All major altcoins, any altcoins that have any decent fundamentals increased like this. We had the same exact pattern, and of course it sold off. First catalyst was the Elon candle, sent things into a downward shift, and then of course the China candle here on the 19th. And what's interesting, and here's the odd thing, a good kind of odd, right, is most other altcoins from the 18th did something like this, right? Like they went down, hit their bottom a couple times, and then slowly starting to ramp back up now. Kava is not doing that. It did very well when Bitcoin was selling off, so that means there's some pretty good fundamentals that are probably pushing the price action even to right now. But keep in mind, as you can see here, right there on the 20th, 21st, that's when Bitcoin was sub 30,000 for the first time ever. But what's odd is Kava went even lower than that point a lot sooner. So this knee-jerk reaction on the, that's what I like to call it, is when you see an overreaction from the price. This time frame, I mean, gee, look at that. Almost 60% it went down in one day. So I can see why the price went down so fast, so quick, because that was a pretty big shell shock. So bottom line here is when Bitcoin dumps, Kava dumps hard. But when Bitcoin does poorly, just in general, a lot of sideways declining action, Kava has a tendency of ramping back up. That's an interesting thing that some coins have. So either way, regardless of that fact, just keep that in your mind when we're doing this analysis, right? Because even though it's reliant on Bitcoin, in a sense, it's really not also. So it makes perfect sense why the price is increasing right now, but it's also kind of mirroring Bitcoin as well. So it's odd. I also speculate the fact that the price has been sideways for so long with Bitcoin, that last month and a half of consolidation, so to speak. A lot of coins are essentially ramping back up just based on that that response, right? Because this is following Bitcoin almost to a T right now, minus today's price action. Yeah, either way, no speculation. RSI is just touching 70 at this point, so there is still room for growth. Furthermore, we've got a nice convergence there on the 24th. That's pretty standard. Almost every single altcoin converged on the 24th on the MACD, based on the fact that Bitcoin had those 9 solid days of green bars in a row, right? So the 9 solid one-day candlesticks, I think it was, that were all bullish. So it's it makes perfect sense why we had a convergence there. Let's go and take a look at the 4-hour though. This is the one that matters a little bit more. Looking at the simple moving averages, price is above 50 and the 200. You can see the 200 back here, of course, is a support. This is also support too. If you look at the 50, how it bounced off the price action, that's nice. I like to see that. So it tells us that that's working as a momentous indicator and essentially driving the price up. We've also got the RSI still under 70, which is great. It's doing this nice staircase pattern, at least sort of. I mean, you see this here. That's essentially a staircase. So what we should expect to see is a price increase, maybe a little bit more, but more than likely go sideways with another increase within the next, I don't know, couple of days. It's hard to say specifically based on how long these candles are. I mean, like that's about 2 days. That's about 3 to 4 days. So there's a good chance we might see, consolidation, sideways action for about 3 to 4 more days, and then maybe a further increase from there. But again, if Bitcoin takes off, let's just say Bitcoin comes up and breaks 42.5, then it's going to be open season for Kava, and there's a great chance we'll see that increase because, when Bitcoin does poorly, Kava decreases rapidly, right? But when Bitcoin does well, Kava increases rapidly too. So there's those two things you got to understand. All right, moving on to the 1 hour chart. Let's go ahead and get rid of this guy here. It's kind of ugly. We'll disable the simple moving averages, and we'll go ahead and take a quick look at the Ichimoku cloud. Now, the cloud is nice if you're new to the channel. It's probably one of my favorite indicators. It can be one of those things where you got to be patient and wait for it, but if you do, it's commonly going to reward you. In other words, when the price is, the general concept here is when the price is over the cloud, it's considered a buy signal. When it's under, it's considered a sell signal, so you'd want to go short in this position or long in this. And that's essentially the general concept, minus the fact that when the price is in the cloud, you do not take entry, you leave it alone, right? So right now it's considered bullish. So therefore, it's, I guess you could say, considered a good entry point. But also keep in mind it's a little late to the game, so to speak. So we want to see how the price action responds to this right here. A lot of times it'll come along and it'll just ride the cloud, and it's awesome when it does that. Bitcoin did that a few days ago, and it just gave us that strong pump. I think it was like on Friday, if I'm not mistaken, and that worked out very well. So something just to note. Sometimes it happens that way. But that's kind of how that works. So what we want to look at as well here on the 1 hour chart is a TD sequential, see if there's any exhaustion. Yeah, we're getting there. There's a bit of a reversal here too, though. So generally speaking, when you see a 9, anything around 8 to 9 or further indicates that there's exhaustion. In other words, we're about 6 candles into this 9-hour period potentially, showing that there could be, possibility of just say 3 more hours of more downward action. It could just keep going sideways. When coins consolidate, you see this constant 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4, like a an up and down pattern, so to speak. It's hard to really rely on TD sequential in those cases. So right now, I would say that's really not helping much. But generally speaking, you're looking for a 9 on TD sequential to indicate a reversal. And according to that logic, we have 3 more hours of potential downside. That's for Kava presently on the 1 hour chart. Moving on to the 15, we'll just go ahead and take a quick peek at the EMA and VWAP notifications and call it a day here. But generally speaking, if you're new to the channel, I'm a big proponent for the VWAP, which is a volume weighted average price. It's like a day trader's tool. Now, you don't have to be a day trader to utilize it. You can just quickly reference it and understand what it means. It's basically a support and resistance level. And it's consistent with the price because it takes the last 24 hours of the volume and expresses it as a price moving forward. So that's what's awesome right now. I mean, at this point in time, as you can kind of see, it keeps bouncing off the VWAP. We're looking very good. That's basically a consistent support. So the price being above VWAP is step number 1. That's what you want to look for when taking entry. Furthermore, why don't we take a look at the EMA? Now, EMA is this red line here. That's the exponential moving average. That's the 15 that I utilize. You'll see a default of 9 and 20. I use 15 to split the difference, so I have 1 indicator instead of 2. But it just makes more sense for me, so I use that. And what happens is when the price action comes up and it kind of bounces off EMA, it's considered bullish, right? So when the price is above, bullish. The price is below, it's considered bearish. So it's just generally the concept there. So what I like to do is I only like to take entry when the price is above EMA and VWAP, right? So you're above support, check number 1. Why not buy above support instead of buying into it? Check number 2, only taking entry when the bulls are in control for a long position. Same thing with a short position for the bears. So that's kind of the concept, right? And the third thing you want to do is always confirm that you have confirmation trending that direction. This is confirmation right here. And see, it's already highlighted because that's the indication that I've created. And I provide this to my patrons as well. And what this basically just means is the fact that when you have this 30-minute time frame, because again, this is 15-minute candles, in this 30 minutes, you can see that the bulls have taken control. So we got 30 minutes of bullish momentum. So that's good consideration for an entry point. Again, easy to say, retrospect is 2020, but you look back there, you could have got somewhere in the range of, 5 to 10% gain. Again, minus even this other increase, so just say you held on for a while, you get a lot more. But generally speaking, you look for those kind of entries, right? Now, it's not perfect, don't get me wrong, but if you look at this time frame here as well, on the Ichimoku cloud and the 1 hour chart, we are above the cloud as well. Right? So again, you're buying into all the momentum that's happening. You're not just trying to find the bottom and buy the bottom, because that makes no sense at all. If people say they have a solution to be able to find the bottom, then they're wrong. Don't get me wrong, you can use TD sequential and the cloud, etc. That those help, but chasing the bottom never works. Why not get into the what's the analogy that I like to use? I like to say, instead of swimming upstream, why not follow the current? You're just kind of relaxing, you're taking it easy, nice 5-10 miles an hour, instead of pushing really hard to try to get upstream. It makes no sense. Why don't you just go ahead and go with the momentum? That's why this confirmation works so well. Okay. Again, this increases my percentage. I mean, I'm a 75 to 85% trader on average for my success rate. And I share those signals with my group too, by the way. So if you're part of my Patreon community, you'll know this. I utilize all these tactics that I just showed you in that scenario to find these signals for you. And I just share those with you, an average of 2 to 4 per week. That's kind of what I do on the side. But bottom line here is the fact that I always make sure that I have confirmation moving forward. Don't just jump in, don't just guess. Have a good risk tolerance and make sure that you're careful and wise in your decision making. Okay. That's kind of like the concept. So I hope you did find benefit here. I'm not even going to bother with any smaller time frames because honestly, the 15-minute is really all you need. 4-hour chart and the 15-minute chart, and of course the 1 hour for the Ichimoku cloud and TD sequential. So if you did find benefit from this, please like and subscribe. Feel free to reach out to me through Telegram, of course. We've got a good group of folks there, or more importantly, support the channel. Now's the best time to do that, of course, because we're early in the month and Patreon bills monthly. So now is probably the best time to consider registering for that. Love to get to know you a bit better and appreciate again your time here today. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.